Good morning. It is Monday morning, and I am in the fabulous cottage room because there's people in that bathroom. It is no longer the liminal space. It's the second day where there's folks down there making changes, just like I'm making changes in my life, and I bet just like you're making changes in your life too. It just doesn't look like a bathroom renovation all the time. So it's Monday morning, and Thursday's coming up. My day on Thursday is coming up. And so this is part 2 of my Keep It Simple. And when I did this last time, Keep It Simple is just, there are ways to get through anything. Good morning. There are ways to get through anything. And I have lots of role models to get through things that are difficult. The one I told you about was Viktor Frankl, who, when I was wearing my jewelry, good morning, Erin, good morning, Sanita. Wearing my jewelry was my anchor that was as powerful for me as Viktor Frankl thinking about his wife and him being warm because he was thinking of her. And Nelson Mandela is my other role model, caged, inhumanly caged for 27 years. And and it didn't stop him. It didn't stop him. He didn't lose one moment of sight of his own humanity, his own greatness, and came out and changed the world. And so if those two men can do that in circumstances way harder than mine, then I'm going to be wearing my earrings every day and thinking about what I can do to get through my circumstances. So today's conversation is about the mental strategies that I use. Because how am I going to do this? I want to make this count. It's like we were talking about the 3 buckets the other day, and the second bucket is about influencing other people in difficult circumstances. So you might be facing something that's way different than mine, and all of my strategies will work for you too. So today is a strategy that I created a long time ago, and I created my version of it a long time ago. It certainly is based in neuroscience, and it certainly is based in the work of a lot of other folks. And I call this strategy, you bring about what you think about. And here's how it works. We are wired, our brains are wired to protect us. And so basically we're wired for fear. Because if we're afraid, then we won't die. And so when humans lived in caves and, we'd go out to get lunch and we didn't want to be lunch because you never knew who was out there who would get us because we were prey in a way that we are not in the same way now. And being afraid and being instantly aware of danger would make sure that we lived long enough to breed, which is why we're here, because our ancestors lived long enough to breed. And they did that by being afraid. By looking for danger and looking at the downside all the time. And, they could awfulize it so that they would be protected from it. And that was a great strategy a long time ago. We're wired for that, and our brains are wired to keep us safe, not to help us grow. They're not actually wired to help us think about the future in positive and powerful ways. We have to do that ourselves, and we know how to do it. And so our brain is kind of like our operating system. And just like any operating system, we can have updates and upgrades. And really that's what reinvention is all about, is upgrading the system. So this is one of those upgrades to the system that has saved me tremendously and is helping me right now. And so I leave it with you in the hopes that it will help you too. So here's how it works. You bring about what you think about because you have a filter in your brain. It's called the reticular activating system. And if you don't want to think about a big word, it's just RAS. And basically, here's how it works. We've all seen it, we've all used it, but we don't all have the name for it. Good morning, Miguel. Buenos dias, senor. And so if you've ever thought about buying a new car, this is the easiest way. This is how I learned about reticular activating system. If you're ever thinking about buying a new car and you want to have something that you haven't seen before, you want to have something that's uniquely yours. You figure out what it is, you go to the dealer, you get the car. It's like the car of your dreams. You drive off the lot and you're on the highway, you see 4 of them. And you've never seen 4 of them before. Well, that's because you didn't have a filter for this particular kind of car, and now you see them everywhere. So that's how your reticular activating system works. So you bring about what you think about. You see those cars now because you've put them into your filter. We are bombarded with something like 2.3 billion bits of data per second. That's what scientists tell us. And we can't possibly pay attention to all that stuff. And remember, when we learn something, it goes unconscious. We're not paying attention to it. And so the fear that we learned, that we carry with us, it's unconscious. So we react to things like, having surgery on your nose right in the middle of your face with the innate fear that our ancestors passed down to us. And if we don't look at it, we carry it around and we're afraid of stuff and we won't move. So I, being the renegade that I am, have no time for that stuff. And part of what I've been doing for my whole career and probably even my whole life is to think of ways around. I want to maneuver around, through, over, whatever. And so you bring about what you think about. It's got three pieces to it. One is you understand that there's a filter in your brain and you can filter for what you want if you're paying attention. So step one is to get conscious of what you're filtering for and decide that you want to filter for something perfect. How am I using that? I've decided, this is my anchor for positivity, that I am beautiful no matter what happens to my nose. And the filter I'm using, now, I didn't say the filter had to be true because I can't prove this, but the filter I'm using right now is, because my doctor is amazing, whatever she does to my nose is going to make it more beautiful. Now, I'm filtering for more beautiful, and I'm not filtering for fear. So that's step one. Understand how the process works. Well, now, step two is the understanding that that's a nice thought, Maya, and how do you carry that forward? So you have a thought, and then something else happens, and then you go back to whatever your normal is. And if your normal is fear, it's like when I was on the call the other day with you, I said, getting my nose cut off. It's like, well, that was my fear, and that lives in my body. And so step one is understanding I can filter for something else. And step two is understanding that that fear continues to live and that fear needs to continue to be practiced on a switch. And so I'm reinventing what happens to my nose. And that's step two. So I'm anticipating a change. Yeah, this is going to change. I'm designing a change I want, which is I'm filtering for beauty. I'm wearing beauty. I'm thinking about beauty every day, and then implementing that change. And here's what that means. Every time that fear shows up, I go, yeah, that was the past. And what's true now is I'm filtering for beauty. Number one, understand you have a filter and that you can update it anytime you want to. Number two, understand that reinvention, and this is a practice, and you do it over time. And number three is you understand that this is not an event, it's a process. And that makes me breathe. Like, I don't have to do this perfect every minute. I don't have to do this perfect every minute. I can have moments between now and Thursday, because Thursday's the surgery. I can have moments between now and Thursday where I waffle between my power and my fear. It is totally, totally normal. Every time my fear shows up, I tell myself, here it is to be healed. Here it is to be addressed. It's like a little kid that's scared. That's what I woke up this morning with. I woke up with that feeling of, oh my God. And so what I know in my work is that all of us have that little kid, and he or she gets scared. And my job, and I invite you to consider it as your job, is to comfort that little kid. So number three is understanding that we're human, fear is normal, and every time it shows up, we are given the invitation to heal it. So 1, we have a filter. 2, we get to prime it and say what we want. 3, we get to practice it over and over and over. And it'll be okay. So, happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining me. My final Facebook before this surgery, I'm thinking, based on what else is happening in my world, will probably be Wednesday morning. And then I'm going to tell you all the strategies you can use for physical comfort if you're going through something like this. I have a whole strategy of what you can do if you have to have, even if you have to go to the dentist, have surgery or anything like that, it serves me really, really well. So that's what's coming up for Keep It Simple Part 3, probably Wednesday morning around this time. Thank you for your support. I love you with all my heart. I appreciate your presence, and I appreciate the opportunity to use what's happening in my world to support you and yours. I'm Maya Beatty, and I'll see you next time.